The Nuggets handled the Dallas Mavericks with ease, even without AG and Jamal. Adam bathed in sunlight. Nikola Jokic is bathed in MVP love in the latest straw poll, and we'll tell you about our biggest takeaways from the Nuggets before the All-Star break. All that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making this your first listen. We appreciate you guys being part of the community on all platforms, whether you're joining us on YouTube or you can join folks like Nemanja, John, Alec, Riley, hanging out with us in the chat on YouTube, or if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. We appreciate you guys taking time out of your week to give us a listen. We hope you enjoy it. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. We are also brought to you today by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Adam Mares. Early show this morning as I have to hop on a plane this afternoon to go to Salt Lake City in the middle of February to head to All-Star Weekend. I will relay to you whatever it is that I hear from Joker if I'm able to get close enough to the Serbian scrum that he will no doubt be a part of. That's the best part, is like how excited he is to talk to international media at All-Star Weekend. He actually, the first couple of years, he was kind of like a little uncomfortable, and like he's kind of gotten into he's Mr. All-Star now, and it's.
I'm telling you, I'm curious. I keep an eye on that for me, because I think Jokic is in the midst of an evolution in that regard. I'm just kind of curious to see if he's a socialite more and more each year.
Yeah, we'll see if. Although I think maybe this year, unlike last year, maybe he shouldn't hang out with Luka Doncic, since Luka did not look great last night. The Nuggets get the win over the Dallas Mavericks last night to split the season series, which is not really going to matter ultimately for tiebreaker. You know how much I love those, but that's not going to matter. They're too far up. Nuggets get the win 118-109. Mavericks were without Maxi Kleber, Tim Hardaway Jr., and most notably Kyrie Irving. Nikola Jokic does what he does. He goes for 14 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. The Nuggets are 25-0 when he has a triple-double this season. He also records 1 steal and 1 block to go with 5 turnovers. 6 of 9 from the field, did not attempt a 3. The Nuggets were, what was the ridiculous number that they were in the paint? 29 of 33 at the rim was the number for the Nuggets last night. My big takeaway from this game, on top of like the Mavericks looked like a team that badly needs the All-Star break. Luka Doncic looks like a guy that, while he was off, did not take conditioning very seriously. And my big takeaways for the Nuggets were, Vlatko Cancar, 12 points on 11 shots, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. I loved absolutely everything Vlatko did last night. I loved all of it. Like, great transition pass to Bruce Brown. Awesome closeouts to get hands up on corner threes, which they gave up a higher number of because of how well Luka passes and reverses the ball out of pick and roll. Rebounds, like he missed some layups and stuff like that, but that's okay. He's going to make those most of his time. I love that he missed a layup and was like hitting himself in the head. I'm like, the accountability is great to see. Love seeing that from him. And then Michael Porter Jr. Had a Euro step where he just like got around the guy. Great finishes, shot well, coming off screens. The stretch from MPJ has been sublime while Jamal's been out.
Man, there was a lot of points in there. I think I want to go to your Vlatko one, because Michael Malone was asked last night about the bench, with the new guys in there, and he mentions 5 guys. He mentioned Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant, the new additions, Bruce Brown and Christian Brown, and then Vlatko Cancar. And I think we've all wondered, like, where's Michael Malone view that Jeff Green, Vlatko Cancar, Zeke Naji trio? And at least last night, he indicated that was Vlatko's spot. And I agree with him. I think Vlatko's a good player, and I think he's having a great year, sort of a breakout year for him. And he's just been so consistently good at so many different things that to me, and the funny thing is he wasn't a standout to me last night. I thought he was good, but he wasn't one of my top storylines. But nonetheless, I agree with you. He's just very solid, very reliable, and I think has firmly established himself as one of the guys.
Shout out to Jeff Green. After I talked about, like, I think the hands really bothering him. He goes out and he shoots 11 of 16 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Had a really sensational cut dunk, 24 points for Jeff Green. The uncle got it done. Thought that obviously those are big minutes. You get those from the bench.
Let me say this about Jeff Green, though, real quick. I want to make a Jeff Green point, and that is one of my questions about Jeff is he is the most – I mean, he's the oldest guy on the team, but he's also like – I can't tell how much is he's hurt, how much is he's washed, and how much is he just knows which games are important and which games aren't. Because I felt like tonight there was more pep in his step. It wasn't just that he had a good game. It's that he looked a little bit more intense, and he's a tricky one. Because I think he's outside of the top 10 right now in the rotation, but he's also a guy that I would not be surprised if this is more who he is than what we've been seeing. He's just picking his spots.
I think if you need him, he's there. I think if you need him, he'll be there. Yeah. I think Vlatko needs to play over him. I feel comfortable saying that Vlatko's going to play over him. I continue to believe that. Maybe I'll look stupid, but I'm willing to say that, at least right now. I think that if you need Jeff to play like they've needed him with AG out, he will give you minutes. And
see, that's the part I don't know if I agree with, because I don't know that he has this like 4 games and 8 nights, not even like 4 and 6. Like, I don't know if he has that. So we've seen a lot of games where you're kind of like, why is Jeff Green seem like he doesn't care tonight? And it might just be because he's like, I'm not an 82 game player anymore.
Yeah. I think that is age and injury rob you of consistency.
Right.
I started saying this a long time ago when I was watching those Manu versus Wade matchups, where it was like Manu would look horrible one game and then look sensational the next. And Dwayne, you'd be like, Dwayne Wade is washed. And then the next game, it'd be like, holy Dwayne Wade. Like, it robs you. And Jeff Green's not that level of player, but if you scale it down, like, that's kind of what we're seeing. And like, to a larger point, not to put this entirely on the idea of age, like, this has always been Jeff. Like, Jeff's driven everyone crazy. Like,
I agree. Yeah.
He drove Thunder fans crazy, Boston Celtics fans, Memphis fans. Like, everywhere he's been, people have been like, why can't you do that every game? And the answer is like, that's not who he is. I do feel like Vlatko's an every game player. Like, I feel like Vlatko's effort and, what you've talked about so much with like the low mistakes, the consistency of effort and the consistency of performance has been very high from him. And so, yeah, I think that Vlatko plays. What did you see from Porter last night?
Well, that was the story. So Jeff Green having a great night was awesome. Jokic triple-double. But the story to me last night was Michael Porter Jr. First of all, the part that you count on that we all kind of have seen before, 5 of 10 from 3, not to be taken for granted that a guy made 5 threes in a game, got 10 of them up and made 5 of them. He was huge. His athleticism, getting to the rim, getting to the basket, the Euro step you mentioned is like a Porter that we saw in previous seasons, but haven't seen a whole lot of this year. And so it's nice to see. But defensively, man, he was a monster. I thought the times he got switched out onto Luka, he did a very nice job. He contested, he moved well. And then those blocks, those weak side blocks, when we talk about the most important things that Michael Porter can do for this team, of course, 3-point shooting is number 1. But that rim protection as just like a guy that has super athleticism, super length, a guy that provides that is huge. And I thought he had the play of the game. He had 2 blocks last night. Both of them were monster blocks.
Yeah.
But the one where he blocked it, then went to the transition and knocked down a 3 to push it to 15, essentially ending the game. That was the dagger. I thought that was one of those, okay, is this going to get hairy at the end or is this going to be a blowout? And that play changed it. It was a 5-point swing. You save a layup, you hit a 3. It changed it. And it was like, no, this game is over. I thought he was great. I think he continues to get healthier and healthier and look better and better. And then I put this out on Twitter last night. I think it's the most succinct way to sum up the season he's having. He's been very patient when the Nuggets have not called his number on offense.
Yeah.
He has not cut outside the lines, but he's been ready every time they have called his name. Yeah. It's a very good balance to keep, and it's impressive that through 60 games, he's been able to do that perfectly.
Really terrific season. Bench gave you exactly what you were hoping for, right? Ish finishes like before the garbage time. Ish finishes a -1. That's totally fine. Thomas Bryant finishes a +3. You get 16 points out of him, out of Bryant and Ish. Ish, like for second quarter, comes off of a screen, knocks down a mid-range J. Thomas Bryant like gets you like a variety of like scoring opportunities, like just like competent bench play, which is just like what they've so desperately needed. And like that's it. That's what they need, is they just need that, and they'll be fine. And even shorthanded to do this, like there'll be a lot of talks about the Mavericks, but this is like a good sign for the Nuggets, right? That like if you're not fully healthy, you have no shot, even if the Nuggets are not fully healthy. Like that.
Yeah. And at home in particular, man.
Yeah,
like
in Denver. Yep.
Yeah, in home in particular. But I'm with you on that. Denver, they just win easy. Last night was not a hard win. That was an easy win. And yes, Dallas was shorthanded. It should have been an easy win.
Yep.
But it's nice that we're at a spot where Denver just consistently gets these easy ones because they're so talented and they know who they are.
Yeah. Mavericks shot terribly too. It was just it was rough. It was Reggie Bullock looked horrible last night. He was real bad.
Well, another thing is honestly, like the starters always do this. We're used to it. There wasn't that big of outliers last night. I mean, Jokic was a +9. That's actually on the low end for him. You know, the starters were good. They were very good last night. But the difference is that bench being able to give you at least one great stint. And I think it's only going to get better as they integrate their pieces more. I mean, right now, Thomas Bryant's just playing the dunker spot. But it's so encouraging that I think since he arrived, I know one of those games he barely played, but the Nuggets, I think, are 3-0 with their bench being a positive or a neutral. That's good. That's good sign. It's good momentum.
Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about what our big takeaways are for the Nuggets heading into the All-Star break. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can bet on everything from money line to point scores and threes drained. We're going to talk about Nikola Jokic and the MVP straw poll a little bit later. And guess what? You can do at FanDuel. You can parlay NBA awards. One of my favorite things to do, put together a little bit of Joker, put some Paolo Banchero Rookie of the Year -10,000, just a little juice it a little bit, get in whoever you think is going to win 6-man, DPOY, and increase your odds a little bit. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets at an even bigger payout with a same game parlay. Don't miss the chance for your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're also brought to you today by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. It's super simple. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and you'll win up to 25 times your money. You're not competing against other people who have screens and screens of models and are running 1,700 entries. It's just you versus the projections. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you watch, including NBA, NFL, MLB, starting soon, NHL, get on some abs, good win last night versus the Wild, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, and women's college basketball, all these sports and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. And they offer safe and fast withdrawals. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up today and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks is going to give you $100. Whatever you put in, they're going to match that up to $100. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on a Thursday. I will be out tomorrow, headed out to All-Star Weekend. We'll get you. I'll try and put some social stuff up on the old Locked On Nuggets Twitter account. If I grab some video from Joker or whatever, I'll try and put that up there. So Adam, we were talking about segments to do. I think it was a good idea from you to just do like, what's our big takeaway and where are we at with the Nuggets heading into the All-Star break? Do you want to go first?
No, I want to go second. I want to hear yours.
So the Nuggets are going to be the #1 seed in the Western Conference. I feel very confident on that. And you can say like, well, they're only 4 games ahead based off of the winning percentage, Memphis's remaining schedule, how good Denver is at home. Memphis has shown a little bit of a slide over the last 15 or so games. I feel very comfortable the Nuggets are going to be the 1 seed. They're probably going to pass 55 wins. They'll be close, if not surpassing the all-time wins mark for a Nuggets team. This team, I think the biggest thing is, I think home court is actually really important because of how well they do play there. For me, it's the margin for error is very high for them at home because they play so well. On the road, they're still good enough to get wins, but ultimately, like, I think home court is going to make it to where teams are going to have a really hard time facing, like a Game 7 in Denver is going to be a tough place to win. And I haven't always felt that way, but I will also say this, like, I think the crowd has risen to the level of this team where now not just the altitude, but the actual crowd at ball is very good, and the Nuggets feed off that energy. Joker's going to win MVP. This team is absolutely phenomenal. This is the best shot that I can remember that I've ever seen for the Nuggets to win a title. They need to maintain health over the last stretch of games, but ultimately the majority of the work in building a contender this season, I feel, has been done. What are your takeaways?
I mean, I like it. The point about home court advantage has been great. And one of the things that's neat about it is that was a goal they set out. We need to protect our home court. And it's awesome that they have fulfilled that, that they set a goal and that they have kind of followed through with it. Their record could even be better. I think half of their losses at home, two of their 4 came without Jokic. And that kind of shows you, like, hey, when Jokic has been there and you're at home, you're almost guaranteed to win. So I like it. And then last night, in the post game, when Malone was giving his post game speech to the team, he mentioned they're not just going for the 1 seed in the Western Conference; they want the number 1 seed in the entire thing. And I think that's interesting because to do that, you're going to have to press all the way to the end of the season. You're going to have to, play your guys, and you're going to have to try to get wins that maybe aren't so important because they are now a game behind Boston, maybe 2 games. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if that's a smart move or not, to want to go for the 1 seed. What do you think of that, Matt? Because I look at it and I go, they're 5 games up on the 2 seed in the West. Home court in the West to me seems by far the most important. And you might be able to have your cake and eat it too because of how well you set it up to where you can be the 1 seed and you can also get a healthy amount of rest for your key guys so they're fresh going into the playoffs.
I think it should be a matter of how close you are. Does that make sense? Like, if you're 3 games back, don't push it. There's no reason to push it. If you're within range, if it's like, hey, if you win this game, the odds are very likely that you're gonna get the 1. I would definitely play for that. I think if you have championship aspirations, because it's not like we just want to make the finals. Nobody's like, we would love to just make the finals and then everything, and then we can lose and that's fine. Like, they want to win the whole thing. You're gonna want it then too. And if you have a shot at it, I think a lot of this is about managing stuff though. If Joker gets run down, you got to prioritize that. They've done a good job with Jamal and AG of, hey, if they need minutes, give them a rest. Same thing with Michael Porter Jr. Like, give him a rest. I'm really glad to see that AG's gotten some time to rest. I think that's been good. Now he's had an injury, but he's going to get that extra rest over the All-Star break. I don't think that they need home court to win the title. Because if they get there, it's just one matchup. It's more to me about, like, over the Western Conference playoffs, you want that margin of error and that safety net of playing every series with home court. You're on mute.
I will say, if you get to the finals, if you get to that spot and Denver does not have home court against Milwaukee or Boston, I mean, the odds go down a lot for me, like in my head. So it is important. And if you are a team that thinks you are going to the finals, then it is important to get it. So it's a little bit of a weird one. Denver's just never been in this spot before. You've never thought about the finals. That always felt like, hey, worry about that when you get there.
Yeah, when you get there.
The Nuggets are now in a spot where I'm not saying they should expect to come out of the West because they're not that good that they could just say, oh, no, we should expect it. But it is the thing that you look at and say that's a realistic goal. Like, that should be the aspiration. So it's an interesting spot. My takeaway, though, for the Nuggets is just how much they seem to know and buy into an identity this season. I think it's more than ever before does the team from top to bottom all seem to buy into that goal. And I think this is one of the interesting things about the Bones trade, and we'll see how Reggie Jackson fits in. But you look at a top 5 right now. Does KCP know what his role is on this team? 100%. Buy into it, 100%. Aaron Gordon, obviously. But Michael Porter this year, I would say 100%. Like, just bought in and knows what it is that's being asked of him. And then you go to the bench, Bruce Brown and Christian Brown, 100%. Vlatko Chanchar, 100%. You got two pieces in Thomas Bryant and Reggie Jackson that are new, so we'll have to wait and see. But you just look at that and say the Nuggets know who they are, what they're trying to do, and everybody is moving in the same direction. And even when they've had success in years past, it hasn't felt like that to the degree that it has this year. And I think that's what makes them different.
I did a podcast with Danny LaRue yesterday where we did tiers. He and I do this pod routinely over at Real GM, and we set new criteria for the tiers every time. And this time it was alignment. That's what I chose, was like, how much is everybody pulling in the same direction? How much is talent fit what they want to do, et cetera? You know, how much off-court tension or contract locker room tension is there? And the Nuggets I had in the top tier. There were 4 teams at the top, and the Nuggets were the first team I listed because I'm with you. It does feel like everybody's pulling in the same direction. And I think maybe the bonus situation might have been different had there been like more egos and agendas in the locker room. Now, I don't think that that's Bones' fault because like a lot of those guys have gotten paid. Most of these guys have gotten paid, right? But this locker room does seem like Ish knows what his role is and knows that he's not going to play sometimes, and that's fine. And Jeff Green, like this is what Michael Malone said, was like, Jeff Green's like, whatever you need. They recognize the part of, I think, having veterans is they recognize how rare these opportunities are. Yeah. And they won't want to sacrifice it because they're not like, oh, I have 10, 12 years left. They're like, no. Like I'm halfway through my career or I'm approaching 30. This might be my best chance at winning a title or in KCP's chance, another title. Right. And there's buy-in, and that really matters. It just really matters. And the last thing I'll say is I kind of talked about this yesterday that, Malone has always pressed. And we're always like, yeah, chill out, man. The team's really good. I feel like they have gotten to a point where he's able to do that. Like once they finally got a lead and once they finally established themselves and played to their capacity, like he's chilled out, I feel like, over the last 45 days.
It's true, but it also makes me wonder, like in the playoffs, he's not going to chill out. The playoffs are tense. And so it's going to be an interesting, almost in some ways, when you see everybody a little bit differently, you start to see guys that are nervous and this or that. We'll see how they respond to it. But it's a big deal. And Thomas Bryant, by the way, last night goes to the podium and talks about how great he feels, how excited he is to be here. And so far, his role has been pretty limited, even more so than what it was in LA. So this the one thing I'm most curious about is Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant both are going to have to take a step back in terms of minutes, shots, usage, and everything else. And I expect they've all said the right things. They all seem to be about it, but you want to see what it looks like when you actually get on the court and Thomas Bryant plays 13 minutes and Reggie Jackson plays 15 minutes and maybe takes fewer shots. You just want to see what that looks like.
Zamora asked this question: why do you think the national media thinks the West is wide open? Like he was referring to the fact if I think the Nuggets are the 1 seed. There's a couple of things here. I don't know why. Like I don't know why. Most things from like the national media perspective that are not like just the talk shows, right? Because I can't speak for those. But a lot of things with the national media can be like, well, look, here's the belief, and you can disagree with it, but here it is. I genuinely do not get the like, well, we'll see what they do in the playoffs. I'm just like, guys, they made the Western Conference Finals. They've won playoff series. This is not like George Karl's Nuggets got out of the first round one time. Like, right. This is not that. They have shown they can compete. I think it's recency bias with how they went out the last 2 years, right? With like, what's your lasting impression is like the Suns sweep and the 5-game loss to the Warriors. And I understand that, except it's like, Nuggets fans are like, well, look at who we were without. People don't contextualize these things. They're just like, yeah, well, went out in the first round, got swept, all these times. There's this idea that you should never be swept, even if it's against a far superior, like the team doesn't matter. The round doesn't matter. It's just like, don't lose in 4 games. Don't lose in 5 games. Otherwise you go out. And it's just like, that is not the proper context of the playoffs. But this is ideal for the Nuggets. You get to be the number 1 seed that no one believes in.
It's so true.
And I'll just say, sometimes when you have that, good things happen to you. You might beat teams that have beaten you before 3 straight times, and then someone might hold someone in a big game, and you might win a game. These kind of things happen to those teams that are 1 seeds.
Well, the thing I'll say is I think Denver's reputation as a playoff team is unfair in that it's better than what people think. But I actually think it's fair for people to doubt Denver getting over the hump until they do it. I mean, this happened with the 7 seconds or less Suns. They would be the 1 seed, and people would say, yeah, but I still think the Spurs or I still think the Lakers. And guess what? They were right. like the 7 seconds or less Suns, I think could have made the final. I don't think it was like inevitable that they didn't. But until they did, everybody was right to doubt them. I think Denver's going to be the same. This to me is a big year. This is the narrative tipping point to me for the Nuggets and for Jokic and for all these guys, because this is the year where it's like, no, if they are who we think, they should probably beat a lot of the teams that are below them in the standings. So
I agree.
This is the year where I think all that stuff tips one way or the other.
Another thing that might be inevitable is Nikola Jokic winning his 3rd MVP. We'll talk about why in the last segment. But first, I need to tell you about Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, you got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. They've come in unbelievable flavors like churro, which really is amazing. It's my favorite is churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. Only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. You don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been telling you to go to Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. You can head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or the coconut puffs. Or if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You'll thank me later. Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar in the world. Go to Built.com to learn more. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Last segment here with Adam Mares. Appreciate you guys being with us. Tim Bontemps published his latest straw poll. Did he query you for the straw poll, Adam?
Yeah.
Me too. So
I had Jokic.
Me too. So the straw poll is out, and the latest one when we have 20-ish games to go, 24 to 22-ish. Nikola Jokic has 77 out of 100 first place votes. He has a almost 400 point lead over Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is second. Joel Embiid, despite winning that game, amazing. Only 6 first place votes for Joel Embiid. He's got 490, trailing Giannis by 60 points. Then it's Jason Tatum, who got 5 first place votes. Luka Doncic with 1. I can tell you that from experience of studying this thing and doing a lot of research on this, it's my favorite thing to research in the NBA is the vote, since it switched to a media vote in 82, tends to coalesce around one guy. And there'll be accusations of groupthink, but I think it's more indicative that momentum matters a lot, and that when you look at all the same factors that most people are looking at, the ones that matter, there's going to be conclusive evidence. Nikola has the statistical case based off of his efficiency and overall contributions. He has the winning argument with how well the Nuggets are. That was what was missing the last 2 seasons. And it's going to make a lot of people mad, but look, the last straw poll, I don't think there's been a late winner after All-Star. I think Joker was leading the last 2 seasons. I'll have to go back and check that. Wow. These straw polls are indicative. These polls are like Tim's does a very good job of selecting it's not just voters. It's people that are like fit the profile of a likely voter. Yeah. And like, to me, this is pretty indicative. Joker also, he got 77 first place. He got 15 of the second. Like, Joel only got 24 of the second. Like, the gap is not wide enough there. Nikola Jokic is very likely going to win his 3rd straight MVP.
I'll say yes and no. I'm less convinced that it's over, though. All the points you made are correct or are good, and precedent shows, that these things can change. What I'll say is, I actually think there is groupthink, and I do think that this straw poll is part of that groupthink. Yeah, that there's a little bit of like. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, we all do it. We participate in this one. My answers were not perfectly in line with what everybody else's were, although it was the same top. I think my first takeaway is the top 5 are clear. So there's no early on in the season, there was like 7 or 8 guys that would get the top 5 votes. Now it's down to 5 players. There's 5 players that are in this list. And then I do think that with the games coming up, the Nuggets play the 76ers again. I think they play Milwaukee again. They've got games against, the Phoenix Suns and Memphis Grizzlies. Like, they're going to be some of these marquee national televised games that will have a little bit of MVP significance. And we'll see how Jokic approaches those games, and we'll see how he plays. So I still think that these things can shift. Yeah. One narrative can shift. Where Denver finishes in defensively. Denver's currently 13th defensively in defensive rating. they have a chance of making it to the top 10. They also have a chance of being 19th. And I do think that there's something too. Like if Denver falls down to that 19th, 20th zone, I think people will rightfully look around and say, well, hold on a second. This team can't really defend at a championship level. So there are some of these different narratives. But I want to push back on one thing, Matt, because you're right that this is starting to become a narrative like the last few have. Why is Jokic winning? It's because of his advanced stats. It's because of, he games the system with his rebounding or this or that. You could throw out the statistical argument. Jokic has like 8 arguments for this. And I hate when it gets reduced to just one thing. He has the record argument. He has, first of all, when people talk about, he has the 50%. He's only shot below 50% one time. And then you might try to say, maybe he pads stats because he's not aggressive enough. They have the number 1 offense as a team of all time. So clearly it's impactful. You could say, the triple doubles, what does that mean? They're 21-0 when he has a triple double. It clearly means something that when he does it, they don't lose. So I think there is a dozen different reasons that he can have it. But at the same time, I don't think it's over.
So I think I should clarify, because I don't mean to indicate that this is, here's the thing. I think he's going to win. That doesn't mean it's not close. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the key here is that when you see 77 first place votes, people go like, wow, like they're just like everyone. And it's like, no, like all of the people that you talk to, if you ask them like, well, how close are your first and second? They're probably like, it's pretty close. Like it's probably very close between Giannis and Joker. It's very close. Right. If you had Embiid first,
Giannis and Joker, yeah. Well, Giannis and Joker, you think it's close?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. I think that like to me, those are the 2 strongest candidates right now.
They have essentially the same record. How has Denver played? 2 more games than Milwaukee? That's wild.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So, like the gap, the number of votes is not indicative of how close each individual vote is, or the average gap in how close it is. But I do just wind up being like, and this is where I get frustrated with the idea that they want to give it to him, and I'm like, no, like the voters take this stuff seriously because like getting a vote's a big deal, and a lot of this is just like, man, I don't have any choice. Like I got to give it to him. Like I have to give it to him. I think if you ask most of them, like, would it be nice to have a different MVP? They'd probably be like, yeah. Like I hate that Joel. There's gonna be a lot of people there like, I hate that Joel's not gonna win one, but I can't just give it to Joel because he hasn't won one.
Yeah.
Like that's just not how it works.
I will say I do think it will put more pressure on Jokic in the playoffs, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like there was a comment in reply to Tim's tweet which says he better win the finals with all these MVPs, which it's all dumb, but that's how it is.
It is how it is. I mean, it's also a little bit fair. So
I don't know. It's a regular season award. I'm just like,
I'm with you. I'm with you on it. Like to me, you're right. People want to make that a future award. Like we're predicting the future by who we give it to, and you can't do that.
Okay, if we just make a playoffs, if we make a playoffs MVP, I'm fine with it.
Right.
Like, great. Give me something else to bet on.
Right.
Like, that's what I want. You know. But we don't.
It'd be cool almost to have a round by round MVP. Would be kind of the cool thing. I'd like a first round MVP, a second round MVP. We have a finals MVP.
Yeah, we're gonna have conference championship, like conference finals MVPs. I would rather do playoffs than I would rather do conference playoff MVPs than.
The only problem with the playoffs is if you have a player average like 50, 10, and 10 in the first round and go down, they're like eliminated from this playoffs MVP because they only had one round.
I mean, that's the interesting question, right? Is like, would you vote for somebody just for having an essential? Like, no, he was. I don't think you ever
would, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Right? I would be like, no, you got to win the games. Yeah. And this is where I get to with a lot of the stat stuff. Is the stat stuff I pay attention to. I try and find metrics that support. Do you impact winning?
Yeah.
So when I talk about these things with Joker, I'm like, I'm just trying to quantify what I see, which is that Joker impacts winning more than any other player in the league. And that's evident by all of the metrics, but otherwise you're just like, well, I think it's this. That's what I think. And it's like, okay, cool. Your memory is not good because no human, like we're not built for that kind of memory, but whatever. But even eye test, I think he wins. So we'll see what happens there. Thanks for joining us. make sure you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy All-Star Weekend. I'm sure Joker will put on a prolific performance in the All-Star game. Make sure to hit us up on Twitter with @LockedOnNuggets. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to see from All-Star Weekend. And we'll be back on Monday to recap the weekend that was. And we'll talk about some big picture stuff next week with a few days off before the Nuggets' last part of the season resumes. Appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure to hit rate, review, subscribe. Check out all of Adam's work over at DNVR, and we'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.